Cursed by the gold gods in Bethany, we are 4 souls destined to review the 1001 movies,
albums,
foods, songs,
and TV shows you must consume before you die. Until then, we are the Immortals. And this is episode 130.
Woo! Nice round number.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Ooh.
130 is a good number.
So,
pretty good number.
I thought so too.
I like how you guys are all talking about numbers the first time I'm back.
Yeah, it's for old time's sake.
Writing that down and this out. Anywho, I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Leigh.
And I'm Pedro.
Welcome back, Pedro. You
Yes.
were vanished for a few weeks for
I
bad
was.
behavior.
Mm-hmm.
We will learn more about what you're up to on a different episode, but we're glad you're back.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're here today to discuss the 379th entries in movies, albums, food, songs, and TV shows you must consume before you die, and they are the following things. The movie is Heaven and Earth Magic.
The album is Asia by Steely Dan.
The food is Arctic Char.
The song is Rock On by David Essex.
And the TV show is The Life and Loves of a She-Devil. Also, because this is episode 130, whenever we have an episode that ends with a 10, one of us gets to do a bonus review, and Leigh is going to be...
That's a multiple of 10. It doesn't end with a 10.
If it ends with a 0.
If it ends with a 0.
True. That's true, or we would have just done 2 by now.
Right.
Yes.
Just pointing out that you were wrong.
That's true. Writing this down, edit out you guys correcting me. Okay, cool. And Leigh, what's going to be our bonus review we're going to do in a little bit?
Our bonus review this week is Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
Fantastic. Before we get into all that, we like to do a segment just to kind of catch up with everyone of something called Off the List, where we talk about something we've enjoyed this week, a movie, song, food, whatever, that is not on the list, but is still worth talking about. Leigh, do you have one this week?
Yes, I do. I have been rewatching the fantastic Netflix remake of One Day at a Time.
This is it. This is life, the one you get to go and have a ball. This is it. Straight ahead and rest assured, you can be sure at all. So while you're here, enjoy the view. Keep on doing what you do. Hold on tight, we'll muddle through one day at a time. So up on your feet.
It is like a wonderful little hug for your heart, which is something I feel like we all kind of need right now.
I love that show. It is such
It's so good.
Great cast, wonderful tone, quietly serialized for a nice little episodic show. And, yeah, I mean, some of these shows, they try to do the Norman Lear thing. This is an actual Norman Lear remake that he was involved with, and it's the best.
It's really good.
And there's an episode in season 2 with lesbians and Doctor Who cosplay doing a farce episode.
Well, that's a thing.
It's
It
the
was
best
so
show.
cute.
Delightful. Who's your favorite character, Leigh?
Oh, but probably Rita Moreno's character, because she's amazing. She's the matriarch of the family and of this Cuban American family, and it's Rita Moreno being Rita Moreno, and it's
Who's amazing. EGOT winner. Rita Moreno.
Oh yeah.
I love that her character doesn't have her own room. It's just a part of the living room with the curtains kind of pulled over. But that means she gets to dramatically open the curtains whenever she wants to enter the room.
It's good.
She's the best.
So good.
Pedro, what's your off list this week?
Well, my off the list would have to be Indiana Jones' Last Crusade.
Indiana Jones is on the...
Nope.
Yes.
Because we covered it on the
It's
movie.
on the list.
It's not on the list.
You added to the list as your bonus review.
I know.
No,
we've
but that's
done
not
that
like
before.
on the list. He's
We've done that
allowed.
before.
We saw
Absolutely
it
not.
in 70 millimeter. He's allowed.
Yes.
No.
Okay,
Yes.
fine. I saw the first episode of the fun show you were telling me about on Netflix with Jonah Hill and...
A Maniac.
That's
Yeah.
the one.
I
That's
watched
good.
that pilot too. It's
It's
good.
great.
Yeah.
I want to find out more.
Hey, no, go ahead.
It's weird. Yeah, it's. I've only seen one episode as well, but it felt like an American Black Mirror kind of thing. Everything is very off. Although I will say I didn't like any of the family stuff. I thought it was boring as hell.
Yeah.
But everything else is really good. Emma Stone,
Yes.
Jonah Hill,
Yes.
skinny Jonah Hill.
Right?
Weird thing to see.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I got Maniac. And also, yes, we saw Indiana Jones' Last Crusade.
Yeah, which is my
That's
off
my-
the list, because it's the best thing I saw
No.
last week. Yes, it is.
We've
It's not
done this
on
before.
the list. It's not on the list. It's something that should be on the list.
Exactly.
Indiana Jones is on the quest of a lifetime. But for some adventures, one Jones is not enough.
Dad? Junior? Don't call me that, please.
Follow me! I know the way! A race across
It's the best Indiana Jones movie. I think I've now, settled. Because I realized while watching it that I had attributed some of the scenes in it in my head to Raiders, but that actually almost all of my favorite Indiana Jones scenes are in Last Crusade, not Raiders. So, for some reason I had attributed, the whole Venice thing in my head to Raiders, which is not at all true. And so then I'm like, wait, if that's in this has all the best things. And we saw it in 70mm, which was really pretty, and with, a very enthusiastic crowd, in a packed theater, which was just how that movie is meant to be seen. Oh, yeah. And it was wonderful. And I liked it. And it was a brief moment of happiness in this world of despair.
Brief moment of happiness in World of Despair kind of describes my off-the-pick list, which is the new season of BoJack Horseman.
Your off-the-pick list?
Yep, off-the-pick list.
Mm-hmm.
Writing this down as well.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Anywho, yes, my off-the-pick list pick is the new season of BoJack Horseman.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show. I'm BoJack the Horseman, BoJack the Horseman, don't act like you don't know. And I'm trying to hold on to my past. It's been so long, I don't think I'm gonna last. I guess I'm just trying to make you understand that I'm more horse than a man, or I'm more man than a horse.
I think one of the best shows on TV. It is the story of a struggling alcoholic horse who used to be a 90s sitcom actor. This is a world where they're just animals and humans just kind of walking around. It's very in a cartoon reality, but it's actually one of the most somber looks at just the failings of humanity and sadness and depression.
Yeah, it's real rough.
Very, very sad. Very also funny. I think the new season is incredible. It is, I think, one of the best new pieces of media to really kind of tackle and understand the Me Too movement and accountability, and which means it's a particularly rough season as well. Highly recommended, BoJack Horseman.
I'm not going to watch that.
So good. All right, now we're going to cover the bonus review, which is Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown.
I took a walk through this beautiful world. Felt the cool rain on my shoulder. Found something good in this beautiful world. I felt the rain getting colder. Sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la.
Leigh, why don't you tell us what this show's about, and also I'm going to give the floor to you.
I haven't been this nervous for a podcast since episode 1. Okay, so this is my last episode of The Immortals. And it's really sad, but I'm doing it for my own reasons, because over the past 2 years, especially the past year, a lot of different aspects in my personal life have made my mental health issues worse. And unfortunately, because I'm a millennial who will never have a real break, I need to give myself as many opportunities for relaxation as I can. So unfortunately, that means I have to leave the podcast. But I'm doing it because I recognize that I'm important. My own health is important, and especially my own mental health, because, don't want to be actually crazy. And one of the reasons why I picked Parts Unknown as my bonus review. Not only because it's an amazing show and everybody should watch it, but because I do really look up to Anthony Bourdain. He was someone who was open and honest about his struggles and with addiction and mental health and things like that, but he still showed that you can have those struggles and you can have those issues, but still live a great life and still have amazing experiences. And for someone who struggles on a daily basis with various aspects of mental illness, that's a fantastic reminder to have. So that is overall why I picked Parts Unknown.
Well, before we get into that, Leigh, I think we all just want to say that we love you, we support you.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss
Thank
you so
you.
much, but that was lovely, and I'm proud of you.
We used to podcast together for, the better part of a year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean in person?
Yeah.
Because you are still,
I mean, yeah.
as of a millisecond ago, podcasting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still, technically podcasting.
We got a couple
together
segments
now.
left.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we are going to miss you, and there's, of course, an open door whenever you want to return, even if it's just for a 5-minute segment where you go, this movie sucks, and leave.
You should
The
just
next
you should just come in whenever you're feeling cranky about something and be mad and then leave. That will make you
Ooh,
laugh.
can I be like Jon Stewart on the Colbert's on
Yeah.
the
You can
Tonight
be
Show?
exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'll do that.
Anytime, Lee. Anytime.
But, as always with these bonus reviews, I always like to do a big deep dive with them, because it's your guys' kind of bonus pick. I ended up seeing nearly 5 seasons of this show for the first time. And it is a rather remarkable show. Leigh, can you tell us a bit of how the show works and why it is so special to you?
So, this show works because of Tony Bourdain. Nobody else could do this show. And it's purely because he understood that food connects people. Food is one of the things that all humans have in common. We all have to eat. Just like we all have to poop, we all have to eat. And he recognized that.
And he thought about making a show about poop. And then he was like, somebody told him, "No, man, how about food?" And he went,
That's weird.
Better.
But he understood that people could sit down and share food and share their stories. And it was a great way to show that people all the way around the world have something in common and that they are actually people, which, again, at this point in our timeline is something I think is really, really important.
Yeah.
Something that immediately kind of struck me about the show, with even its first episode, which, by the way, a show that is immediately great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that is because he had 8 seasons of experience with no reservations.
Right. Which is more uneven and a lot more food focused.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a lot more like Tony Bourdain just gets to, basically, Parts Unknown is, I am cool enough now that I don't just have to do a food show. I'm gonna go places I want and look at stuff.
Well, and that's what, I kind of learned how this show works as I was watching it, because I don't think it is a food show. I don't think it's a travel show. It's a culture show. Mm-hmm. It is a very brilliant man going places and listening. And it is a show without a set format. So many of these travel shows kind of have that, late night talk show host vibe where it's oh, now we're going to bring in the snake. And it was oh, here's the pre-planned thing where the snake's going to come in. We're all going to freak. It's the orchestrated bit you're going to do in this country. And that's not how he operated. Every episode felt like, honestly, a new film. There was no segments, no copy and paste structure. It was seeing what he saw and listening to their stories and responding to the food they make, what their nightlife is like, what their struggles are like, what their history is like, and it's a learning experience for him as well as the audience, I felt.
Well, and I think what's special about Anthony Bourdain is that he is also radically open about himself, which is in a way that is very, very rare for anybody. But when he committed suicide just a couple months ago. It was something that the whole world had spent time with his depression, had spent time with him, going through mental health issues, which is why this show was so powerful and important for me. There's an episode that Austin pointed me to about Sicily, which is Sicily is a beautiful place, and any other show that I can possibly think of would have been just a beautiful Sicily episode, and instead he says, there's this thing that triggered a giant manic depressive episode in me. I don't remember some of this footage. I didn't recover for months after this. And so there's this, that very real way of, any way of experiencing a new experience is, interesting and valid if it's really yours. And it always is really his. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that episode was striking me because of that, because he could have just, lied. He
it
could have
been
done,
hard.
I keep describing it as, the Chris Hardwick thing, because Hardwick is a shithead, and Anthony Bourdain is
he's
one
not
person.
a great guy.
But, when you watch Chris Hardwick on At Midnight or Talking Dead or whatever, you can't tell he's having a bad day because he's always so on as that kind of, game show, talk show host kind of thing that it almost seems like a robot. And, Anthony Bourdain is just very, very sincere in a way that, not even the shows where, he's having a great time, which is 98% of them. It is still not him, big smile to the camera going, this is awesome. It's him very, organically showing you what he is feeling, seeing, and learning. And that episode of Sicily was so amazing to me because it showed what it's like to be functionally depressed.
Yeah.
And he still wanted to make this episode, the best episode it could be, but it's also him going, I was at 70% during this interview. And I'm not going to pretend
or 0%, or I don't remember this, and I don't know these people's names.
Right.
I mean, it's interesting because, and we can talk about the wonderful, beautiful parts of this show and not just Tony in a bit. We should, definitely, because there's a lot more going on here. It's interesting to me because when I was watching the show, it struck me that, really what it is, a lot of the reason that he is the way he is because he's an addict. And if you're an addict and you've gone through any kind of self-help program, any kind of 12-step program, self-awareness and radical honesty are what you do. It's what you learn to do. And, as someone, I have worked, alongside a lot of recovered addicts, a lot of people who have adopted those principles in their lives, and it really is a very different way to live. And Russell Brand is the other person who I always think of as somebody who is a celebrity, who has sort of embraced this kind of experience, who's also a recovered addict or recovering addict, of just being no, this is my life, and I am going to show you what it is. And it's great. And Parts Unknown is really important. And I am it is so sad that there's a limited amount of it. I mean, it's just, it's such a loss. And yeah, it's just such a loss.
I watched seasons 1 through 4, then jumped around a little bit, but I made sure to watch the episode that came out this week, because this is the week they are going to show the final episodes that were made. And
I'm not going to be able to watch that for a while.
Yeah, and it was so interesting because I watched seasons 1 through 4 and a couple in 5, 6, yada yada. This is the one that actually really made me feel emotional because this is him 10 years ago, but this new one was him at Kenya with W. Kamau Bell. And, it's very easy just to kind of theorize where he was more recently than where he was 10 years ago. But it was something just so striking about how, in his voiceover, he kind of said things like, I never wanted to be that guy, but this started to feel like an old hat for me. But having my friend Kamau here was new because he'd never seen this before. Mm-hmm. And to have that, also have the episode begin with Anderson Cooper kind of reiterating these in the final episodes, and he was our good friend. That was really emotional. Pedro, did you say you saw him speak once?
I did. He came to IU, him and his best buddy, Eric Ripert.
Yeah, because they are genuinely
So
BFFs.
good.
It was so adorable. They came to IU to speak a little bit. I think maybe Medium Raw had just been released. I'm not 100% sure.
Is that his second book?
He has many books.
Yeah, I haven't read most. I've only read Kitchen Confidential of his books.
That's the only one I've read is Medium Raw. But yeah, it was fun just seeing them like banter with each other. I felt a little bad because most of the questions were directed at Tony and not Eric. I was like, oh, but Eric's fine. He's cool with everything.
He's a Buddhist.
Is he?
No, okay, so if you're gonna watch, if you liked Eric Ripper and Anthony Bourdain, there's an episode where they go to, where is it? It's the south. They go to I think they go to Marseille together, maybe? Is it the Marseille episode?
I know they go to Peru, I think, together.
There's a couple where they are together, but there's one in France, which is
I think it is Marseille, actually.
It is Marseille,
they do Marseille.
And they do, and it's just a buddy movie, and they make a lot of allusions to Italian film, and then just sit in pretty places and talk about Buddhism. It's great.
Leigh, what were some of your favorite episodes of the show?
Ooh, well, I really like the Congo episode in season 1.
That was really good
because it's like it kind of follows the whole Heart of Darkness Apocalypse Now thing. So that one's really fun. I really like the Myanmar one, which is like the pilot for the show. Mm-hmm. That one's really fascinating. And then probably Detroit would be rounding out my top 3.
I was meaning to watch that one and I didn't get to it.
As someone who's from the Midwest, Detroit is always the butt of the joke. If it's not Gary, it's Detroit. So watching that episode, it was really fascinating because it actually made me want to go visit Detroit and actually go to Detroit and try the food and talk to the people and things like that. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can give to Tony Bourdain is he made me want to go to Detroit.
There's nothing wrong with Detroit. Sorry, my dad's from Detroit.
It's Detroit.
So I gotta...
I'm sorry, you said there's nothing wrong with Detroit?
No, you know what I mean.
It's a paradise place.
Shut up.
I think my company is trying to get some of us to pack up and move there.
It's got a cool hipster vibe now. No, you can. I mean, it's also it's also an abandoned city where terrible things happen. But it's got it's sort of shrunk down to a core that is apparently pretty cool. I loved. Did you watch the Ethiopia one this morning, Austin?
I did.
I loved that one where he goes back to Ethiopia, or he goes to Ethiopia with Marcus Samuelsson, who's a Ethiopian. He's an adopted Swedish man. He's a refugee from the Ethiopian famine who was adopted by Swedish parents and now cooks in America. And he's very interesting and has married an Ethiopian woman who was a refugee from Ethiopia, but at a older age than he was. So he left when he was 2, and she left when she was 13. And it's them going back to see their families. He's found his father, his birth father again. His mother died, and going back to see her family. And it's one of the ones that is the least about food, and I love Ethiopian food very, very much. And there were pretty food shots, but it's mostly about family. And then I also loved any of the ones where Anthony Bourdain was telling his own story. There's one about
he's the one in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, which starts with a picture of a street sign where he says, "This is where I bought my first heroin." About his life in Provincetown, Maine, which is a crazy, haven for sort of misfits and also gay people. I'm not going to categorize as misfits, but misfits and gay people. And then he spends the second half of the episode just doing the opioid crisis in Western Massachusetts. Sometimes he just decides it's no, we're not doing food. We're gonna do this. And I appreciate that he has so much artistic control over the show. And every episode seems to be what he wants it to be and what he actually found when he went somewhere.
Well, this summer I finally read Kitchen Confidential. I had it on my shelf ever since he committed suicide. I do need to finally read this. And once Leigh kind of picked this show, I realized I need to know more about him. Kitchen Confidential is one of the best books I've read this year. And I've read so many amazing books. And it was kind of after reading that book, which was just page by page incredible, Doug really kind of put together that he writes voiceover for every episode. Like, this is an artistic.
It's so his voice because
Right.
it sounds just like everything he writes. Yeah,
and it's not just a cheap Planet Earth kind of thing of like, and now this is where they make the corn for this. No, it is very, like I said, there's no set structure, there's no set pattern. He's making essentially 8 short films a season that are dictated by what he sees. And even though it is called Anthony Bourdain: Parts Unknown, and we've talked so much about his presence in it, he's actually pretty unassuming in the thing.
He doesn't go in like wanting everybody to pay attention to him like other travel shows do.
like every once in a while, people will recognize him, and he clearly is like not super happy about it, which is always like a lot of fun. There's one where he goes. It's one of the American ones where he. Or maybe it's either one of the American ones or in the big Asian cities where he like jumps on and like tries to like join a line in a food truck. And he like can't keep up, which is very funny. But people are like, "It's Anthony Bourdain," and he's like, "And I am terrible at doing this job."
He just typically is wearing a mild color button-down T-shirt.
Some sort of gray button-down short sleeve thing.
Wearing sunglasses, and he really is a good listener. And he's not throwing himself in the middle of the scene. It's not going like, this is Anthony Bourdain on a safari. It is, this is the landscape I am surrounding myself by. And when he does put himself in the narrative, it's usually for a good reason. I think perhaps the funniest episode is Tokyo.
Oh, God.
Which is
Such a
essentially
good
just
episode.
the Tokyo nightlife.
Welcome to Tokyo. You are not invited. This is the other Tokyo. 12-hour flight, and I'm baked. No sleep. Might as well, must, go out. The Kabuchiko district near my hotel has the advantage of being where the subterranean life, the repressed ids of the Japanese male, and some females too, comes out to play. Joining me is Japanese film producer and production manager Masa Kokubo. Always a good sign when protective chains separate entertainers from the soon-to-be entertained, right? Prepare yourself for the greatest show in the history of entertainment.
Where he is just in awe of the ridiculousness, how expansive it is, and how it is indescribable even while he's watching it and filming it and making a voiceover for it, but still can't capture why this was the greatest piece of theater he just saw.
Yeah.
It's such a, and also then you watch him get very drunk.
Yes.
And not in a, like, alcoholic way. It's just more of like, this is what Tokyo can do to you.
Right.
Clearly they let him have free reign, even when he did his Amsterdam episode, and he just kind of kept saying, well, CNN doesn't want me to say that I consumed any drugs, so I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, no, that's any time that an illicit substance is put up, he does a very funny riff about, well, it's not that it's illegal, but I wouldn't want to say that I did anything, but I'm just saying that if you were on a mind-altering substance, this would be very interesting.
Tangier episode, he did that a bunch.
Yeah. And it's just, he's such a... I mean, he's just a very important human.
Yeah, he really also has to dig into some of the history of the region, especially if it applies to the current culture and the current way people kind of communicate. I thought the Iran episode was rather amazing about that. I thought the Zanzibar episode was really good about that, just really kind of looking at the state of revolution, what the revolutions do on a cycling public. Really, the Myanmar, fantastic one. I mean, Syria, these are places where you go. We know about them because they're constantly having horrible violence in the news, but as Leigh said at the very beginning, these people still eat every day. Eating and living is part of this culture, and what do they eat and how do they express themselves, artistically as people, and it's beautiful stuff. He's never gone into a store and gone, this is a shithole.
Right.
In fact,
a shithole country, if you will.
Which is very much addressed in later seasons of, as he does some Trump pushback in the episode that aired this week. But no, it is a very, very special show. A show that I found to be like, it always felt like I was watching a full film in those 40 minutes, and yet still easy to binge.
It always has it always has a thesis. It always it's always, he really does have a knack for telling a story. I like it a lot.
Leigh, any final thoughts on this show?
I highly recommend it, and I highly recommend everybody just giving it a try, because we need to remember that everybody is an actual person, even if they live in a war-torn country. They're still people, and we need to recognize that. And I think this show does a great job of it.
Yeah, I think this is the best. I think this is the best travel show ever made.
Oh
yeah, hands down.
Yeah. Now it's time for
Henges.
Leigh, what do you give it?
5.
4.7.
Honestly, like, this is the thing. I always debate about 5s because, it's like, well, what is a 5? But what I just said is what I'll stand by. This is the best travel show ever made. It is also one of the most honest pieces of television, of documentary television that I've ever seen. And for those reasons, even though, I don't know, what do you do with, Parts Unknown and Breaking Bad? Whatever. It's a 5. It's amazing.
Yeah, I see no problem giving it a 5.
I'm the asshole.
Yeah, you're the asshole.
There's nothing wrong with it. I can't, there's nothing, when watching it, there's nothing I'm like, well, you could have done that a little better, or...
not once.
There's no reason to subtract points, I guess.
Alright, you've killed me up to 4.8, but it's an incredible...
It really is that good, too. I am not into this kind of show. I don't watch this kind of show ever.
There is someone who, he's not there yet, but I think the Netflix show Ugly Delicious, I think Dave Chang is a very different kind of voice to Anthony Bourdain, but he is attributing food, culture, and perspectives in a way that, he's no Anthony Bourdain because no one is Anthony Bourdain. But
because, Ugly Delicious is a great food show. I'm sorry, but this is also a show about depression and a show about a man's life in a way that, will never be captured. Ugly Delicious doesn't even try.
What? But yes, but it's a show with different kind of intentions. But it's something about, I don't know. I think Anthony Bourdain is someone who inspired many people. And
I hope we will see
different
more
artists and chefs, because I think what makes him so special, not only is his articulation and his vulnerability, is for what seemed like he was equally as good of a writer as he was a chef.
Oh yeah, and also everybody likes the dude. He just has a lot of friends that are very they're clearly very genuinely happy to hang out with him.
He was also fantastic. He wrote for 3 of the 4 seasons of Treme, the show we covered back in episode 100. All right, now it is time for a movie, which we're going to assume we have equal number of opinions on. This is Heaven and Earth Magic. Heaven and Earth Magic is a 1956 film?
Feature.
It's 66 minutes long. According to the Heartland Film Festival, that's a feature film.
Well, they are the authority.
Yeah, kind of a festival standard amount. But anywho, this is a thing made by Harry Everett Smith. It is an animated... it's not exactly stop motion, but it kind of is, of cutout images and photographs being moved together kind of frame by frame.
It's Monty Python style.
Yeah, it's
legitimately, my review of this is the same as my review of The Jerk. Why would I want to watch this when I can watch Monty Python do it better?
No,
but The Jerk is better. This is boring. Although I do think, and I'm pulling it up, but the guy who made this, it's a crazy, weird experimental hippie.
Yeah, no shit, we just watched the movie.
I know, but it is, no, I'm sorry, I don't know why this is on the list. I don't know what possible...
I know why.
Why?
Because he's a white male quote-unquote genius who was actually just really high on drugs.
Yeah, I think he's just really high. Everybody go look up his picture on Wikipedia, because...
He was fucking high on drugs.
Like, all the time.
Like, his Wikipedia page is recommended. Like, it is fantastic read. At one point, all he ate were methamphetamine tablets, eggs, and, like, alcohol or something
Dude's
ridiculous.
nuts.
Like, that's all he had.
I recommend him for the list of, like, 1,000 people's personal life stories you must know about before you die.
Yeah.
Like, I'm into that, but, like, I think the...
Well, let's have some fun here. Sarah, you found a plot description of
Yes,
the 66
that's what I'm
minutes.
trying to find. Okay.
Oh, there is a plot. Yeah, someone gets really high.
What do you
and
think
then
the
they get
plot
shot
is?
into the stars, and then they fall at the end.
The plot is there's a woman who has a toothache.
Oh, no, I want to read it. I want to read
wait.
Henry
Pedro-
Everett Smith. But first, Pedro has to actually tell us what he thinks the plot is.
I think he just did it.
Because in the beginning, shit's kind of getting weird. Eventually, a weird jug comes out.
A jug.
Yes.
Okay.
They use a syringe to extract what was in the jug.
Sure.
Insert it into someone. And they get blasted off into space.
Sure.
Basically. Then all this shit goes down. And then at the end, they descend an elevator back down to roughly Earth-ish.
Okay, so
I mean,
now
you're not wrong.
Pedro's going to listen to the official plot description for the first
How
time.
close was it?
Okay. The first part depicts the heroine's toothache consequent to the loss of a very valuable watermelon, her dentistry, and her transportation to heaven. Next follows an elaborate exposition of the heavenly land in terms of Israel and Montreal. The second part depicts the return to Earth from being eaten by Max Mueller on the day Edward VII dedicated the Great Sewer of London.
Huh. I was close.
We found
You
this,
did pretty well, honestly. Like, you did pretty well.
we found this description mid-film. I still don't know when those things actually happened.
No, but I mean, I do at least appreciate that, much like Yoko Ono, like, at least I feel like he did mean something. It wasn't just absurd. It was just stupid.
There was like imagery, there was like some stuff happening, and some of it was actually kind of fun to watch. It was annoying because I wanted to do anything else, and if I looked away for 2 seconds, I'm like, oh god, what?
Well, here's
Well,
my
see,
theory.
that's the best part. Even if you do look away for 2 seconds, it's not like you forgot what, or you don't know what's happening because you didn't
'Cause
know
you
what was
never
happening
did,
to begin
yeah.
with.
I guess that's true, but I was always afraid of like, what craziness did I miss, and is it
Nope.
gonna help, and is it important?
I found the craziness to be rather tame and boring, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, me too.
The only
Yep.
thing I
No,
really
it's-
kind of was directed to was just the musicality of it. Like, there is like a rhythm to like these things spinning and moving on screen.
Yeah, but the soundtrack is shit.
Yeah.
Like, the soundtrack is worse than
I
the
actually
visuals.
turned it off and turned the album on.
Yeah, I feel
Oh,
like...
wait, did
I
it
will
sync up
say,
like Dark Side of the Moon?
Sometimes, yeah.
Like, I would watch this very high, synced up to a like, curated set of music, if somebody did that for me.
If I hear those
Not that I've
songs
ever been high.
No, it's
one more
too
time.
it's too long and boring for that.
No, I agree.
Like-
Ultimately, it is. Its only appeal comes from the same as a Yoko Ono tweet that my friend Kirsten and I are obsessed with. Imagine 1,000 suns in the sky at the same time. Let them shine for 1 hour. Then, let them gradually melt into the sky. Make 1 tuna fish sandwich and eat. It's that kind of thing.
But it's not that interesting. The movie is fun.
No. That was also not interesting. The trick of it all is none of it is interesting.
Absolutely, that was interesting.
I mean, that's
That
just fun
one
to try
put
to
me
picture
on
1,000 suns.
I thought it was going to end with like sky imagery. Then the tuna sandwich came in. I'm like, ooh, we got a new arc in the street.
Yeah, that's true.
But
What, you didn't catch the Max Mueller and Edward VII arcs of this?
absolutely not. No,
Yeah, this thing fucking sucks.
Who's Max Mueller?
He's like I think he's a philosopher. I've heard his name, but I like don't know anything about him.
What was the Edward VII? Was it when like 2 random boxers were fighting?
I don't fucking know.
That was the very end.
I
By the
couldn't
way,
figure that
The
out.
toothache makes perfect sense. There's no Novocaine.
No, honestly, the toothache and the watermelon I tracked. I thought the watermelon was a cactus, but once they
I
said
figured it
watermelon,
was a
I was like,
watermelon.
okay.
Okay, there were like 5 or 10 key props that kept coming up. The hammer, the watermelon,
Okay,
the fish,
yeah.
the dog. The dog and the fish fought over the watermelon for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What else was there?
None of this could possibly be good radio, by the
It's all
way.
terrible. I do love the idea that Peter, you watch this on the bus to work.
Yes.
That seems right. That's the right way to do
I don't
that.
know if watching it on a 4-inch screen was. I mean, I guess it wouldn't have been.
No, trust me, it
on
wasn't any
TV.
better on TV.
No. Well, so I think there is a venue of which to watch this. And
Not the bus, I will tell you that right now.
Emphasis on venue. This would be totally fine as in a museum. When you're going through
Yes.
and
It belongs in a museum.
It belongs in a museum.
Yes. You didn't see
High five,
that?
Pedro.
I didn't
Thank
see
you.
it coming. But like if you had an exhibit
Yes.
of this dude's thing and this was on a 66-minute loop, you would watch 3 minutes and go, this guy's got style.
I get
And
what
then
he's
you would
going
go
for,
to the
and then you
next
would
thing.
leave.
And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That is honestly an art form, these kind of looping
Yeah.
artistic museum pieces. Watching this in one sitting was so dull, and the only thing that I saw really of note was, oh, clearly Terry Gilliam has seen this.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely, it must have inspired Terry Gilliam, because it really is Monty Python style, and it is before him, and, like, I can't imagine that it's not connected.
One thing that this movie was really good at doing, because of its, like, pace, whatever the hell is that's going on, it's really good at making you zone out. Like, as soon as I started watching it, within, like, 2 minutes, I was like, well, first of
So
all, I'd rather be
boring.
doing anything else.
Right.
Because I don't want to watch another 5 minutes of this. This takes forever.
Mhm.
But then, like, it's almost like meditation. Like, thoughts just came in my head and left the other way. Like, it was very much just like I'm looking at nothing.
You're right. I did think about like a lot of other things besides the film.
There was a lot
And
of
all of
zoning
those
out.
thoughts were much more interesting.
Exactly.
Maybe that's what this is. It's just a
No,
like,
you can't come around the other side. You can't.
maybe it's perfect.
I mean, that's what was going on in his brain, right? When he made
no.
this. Must have been thinking about everything but...
I don't think that he was at a point where he was really thinking.
I'm honestly shocked this segment lasted this long.
Seriously.
All right, we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. A lot of this is bad.
It's weird. Watch some of it and you're good.
Or don't.
Yeah, 2.7.
1! This is bad!
Wow. I was debating for a long time. I think I'm going to give it 2. Well, I was going to give it a 2.8, but now I'm bringing it down to a 2.6.
It's bad. I don't think people should watch it. It's bad.
It's a 1. It's not even a fucking movie.
It's not a movie. Why
It's
is
a
it on
bunch
the
of
list? There are so many
clip art.
movies. There are so many movies that are good that are not on the list. And this is on the fucking list. It's bullshit.
It's bullshit. You know why? Because he's white and male. We figured this out.
Oh, no, yeah, we
if it's
figured
white
it
and
out. It's
male
not that
garbage,
hard.
that's why.
Heaven and Earth Magic can be found on YouTube.
But don't.
I think we convince people to watch it. I think this segment was so abstract and non-linear.
Drove enough curiosity to...
I bet people will watch
Fuck
IMAX this
everything.
movie.
Let's talk about Steely Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, Leigh, what album do we hear this week?
This week we listened to Asia by Steely Dan.
I seen your picture. Your name in lights above it. This is your big debut. It's like a dream come true. So won't you smile for the camera? I know they're gonna
Asia by Steely Dan is their 6th album that came out in 1977. It is a jazz rock, easy listening album and just like a nice salve for the soul right now.
This was awesome. I really dug this one.
It's so good.
It was chill.
It was
Yeah.
chill in a very like filling way that we usually don't get for our chill albums. Like this was a very full sandwich that was delightful.
Yeah.
Like you didn't miss out on anything. It had such a full sound. The horns were incredible. Like this was
Right? I loved how it had a good brass,
yeah.
like, throughout. I listened to this while at work maybe twice in a row, so I didn't really, like, pay attention to it. But as it was playing, I realized that the sounds coming in my ear holes were pleasant.
Pedro, you'll like this bit of information.
Hmm.
They like came up with the demo of each track and then they had someone compose all of the different pieces in 2 weeks for all of the album.
What? That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, that's great. I need to listen to this more in earnest when I'm not busy.
Well, it's such a fascinating blend of, like, I mean, it's 7 songs, each, noteworthy for its length. It feels like a complete story being told, a complete song being composed.
Like 4 to 6 minutes, right? A song?
Yeah, usually. Some of them up to almost 8.
Yeah.
But like the first song, Black Cow, is actually, like, so sad and so lovely. Like, it is one that really, like, I got into listening to the full sound of every song by really kind of focusing on the lyrics, and for most of them, read then the lyrics by itself, which was very satisfying.
I got no lyrics.
I know. I know.
What was the Steely Dan song we covered? It was like one of my first songs. Way back.
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't remember, but I remember being like, Steely Dan, right? Steely Dan's good.
Yeah, this is such a fun one. I think it was also Peg, the song called Peg, that I really enjoyed.
I like that one a lot.
Very charming. That's the one that kind of keeps talking about the person's favorite foreign film, right?
I think that's the right one.
I mean, that's how you charm me, right? It's just
well, yeah.
flirting with the phrase, your favorite foreign film. This is good. This is really good.
Yeah.
This was like, every once in a while we kind of get one of those albums on the list because I'm just so ignorant about albums. Then I'm like, oh, okay, finally, I get to listen to Bad by Michael Jackson. Something I should have done decades ago. But, what?
You didn't listen to Bad, like, when he died?
I listened to
like, all
the albums, right? When he died, yeah.
You're
My
a
bad.
monster.
What we've learned is that Austin is a monster.
Sorry.
Reeling in the Years.
That's the one.
Yes.
That was a good one, too.
That was a really good one.
I liked going back into it. I like his sound. I like his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is like the most like beloved album by them, and it's always like frequently recognized as like one of the greatest albums. And it really lived up. I mean, 7 tracks, no bad ones, each one full, satisfying, just like different enough for each one that you can always tell this is a new thing they're doing while still all fitting like a larger collection. This is what you want to have an album.
It was one of the few albums that we've listened to for the podcast where I was actually a little sad that it was over when it ended. Like, the last, like, Josie would end, and it's like, oh, okay. And then I'd have to restart it, because it's so nice, and it sounds, I don't know, there's something about it that's kind of calming. I think that's probably the jazzy bit to it, but it's nice. I like it.
I listened to it inside and outside, and it was always better when I was walking around outside listening to it. It's just a very... Yeah, I feel like I'm describing a wine. It's very earthy. It has a good flavor to it.
Nice richness.
Yes. Sweet.
But not too sweet. Not like
no.
Not sickly.
Henges.
Leigh, what do you give it?
I'll give it a 4. It's a good album.
4.5. You know what? No, 4.6.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Look at you.
This is awesome. Pedro?
Oh, yeah, I did that one.
Holy shit, man.
Sorry. 4.3.
All right, that is Aja by Steely Dan.
Asia.
Is it Asia?
Asia. That's what the Wikipedia article says.
It's interesting, because like everybody I know who's named that says Aja.
Because it's AJ.
I know. Well, blame Wikipedia then.
That's
okay,
true. It does
I'm happy
say.
to blame Wikipedia.
Now it's time for the food segment.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to use this space to rant about the food segment. The food segment has been a problem, and it's not because it's not because food is bad. Food is great, but I really like food, but they've focused on ingredients instead of dishes. I think if I had 1,001 recipes before I die, that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But Arctic char is a fish that I've had. It's tasty. But I don't have it here because it's expensive and, like, it's an ingredient. I've had good Arctic char and I've probably had, like, not particularly memorable Arctic char. And so, like, all of these things, it's like food is more than the sum of its parts, man. It's a segment that isn't quite working. We're going to do something about it.
While you talked, I had the Parts Unknown theme song playing.
No, Parts Unknown understands how food should be, man.
I forgot to mention during the Parts Unknown review, theme song is so good. The opening credits so
Oh,
good.
it's so good. I assumed...
And the best part, I hope we're all unanimous with this, is when they kind of get to the, like, Sha-na-na part. You have that kid dancing with his arms.
Yeah,
like,
he's good.
arm
he knows his
thrusts.
stuff.
As almost like
I
assumed that's the best part.
I assumed that song was like a song, like a real song, and it's just the Parts Unknown theme song, which makes me really sad because there's no like extended version.
I thought it was just the Parts Unknown theme song, but like really, really short.
Nope.
But then I heard the whole thing, and I was like, oh, it's definitely a song.
Huh.
But then, no.
But yeah, no, it's not a song. It was made for
is
the show. It was made for the show. Yeah. That's my point. Anyway, I don't have Arctic Char. We can talk about the song now.
I learned today that Arctic Char is a fish. Because
what did you think it was?
You.
Type of lettuce.
Nope. I mean, that's not a terrible
No,
guess.
I totally thought the same thing.
But it's not true.
Yeah.
Char, icebergs.
Yeah, no, 100% what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, guys.
Now it's time for the song segment. Pedro,
Yeah.
what else we hear this week?
We listened to Rock On by David Essex.
Hey, kid, rock and roll, rock on, ooh, my soul. Hey, kid, boogie doo, did ya? Hey, shout, summertime blues, jump up and down in the blue suede shoes.
Rock On is a song by David Essex that came out in 1973.
Wait,
David.
do you have the article open right now?
I do, but...
But you still, like, pretended that you were, like,
No, I
coming up with
was
the year?
frantically looking around for the year that it was released because I was afraid that I may have forgotten, and then I couldn't find it in time, so I said it proud.
Writing this down. Don't edit this out.
August
Keep it all in.
73. I was correct. See? I remember things. David Essex is a
Hinges.
English musician, actor, musician again person.
Sure.
What do you...
Because he started out doing music and then became kind of like a sex symbol actor person in a lot of things. And then he's back into music and acting. I think he's doing both at this time.
Have I seen him in anything?
He was... Oh, I forget now. Shit.
I'll look it up while you talk about the song.
Starts with a V. Evita. There we go. He was Che Guevara.
Oh.
What?
In, like, the Broadway?
In...
The Madonna
West
one?
End cast, so maybe.
So
Evita's
not the
the
Broadway.
Broadway.
Anyway.
I'm going to look into this. You
Yes.
talk about the song.
The song
very
is really
confusing.
great. It's Wikipedia has it as glam rock / blues rock. I would say maybe
Fuck you, Wikipedia.
more on the blues rock side than the glam, although there are some parts of glam. It's really great because it's really it's weirdly clean, even though it doesn't sound that clean. But what I mean by that is
Minimalist.
yes,
Yeah.
there's not a lot going on. No real, like, the main driver is a beat with some bass and his voice, and that's it. Apparently when he pitched the song to his producer, he just sang it and, like, banged a rhythm on
cool.
a tin drum or something. And the producer was like, this is great, I'm going to work with this. And tried to use the emptiness, the quiet, to sort of, like, fill in only bits that matter or
Yeah.
cool. I think the way he explained it was he could have written a ballad, but instead he did this, which was a lot more interesting and better of a song, long-term wise.
Interesting. I get that.
Because the ballad would have been like a super hit
that.
for a short amount of time and then just kind of forgotten.
No, but I get that as, like, also, like, with the lyrics and everything, like, this is the as, like, an alternative to a ballad. It's sort of like it's interesting.
But it's also like an ode to, old school rock and roll. At one point, he mentions blue suede shoes, and I think there's another reference in there.
James Dean.
Yeah, James Dean.
Yes.
And yeah, it's really great. If you listen to, like, all of the instruments, I don't think at any point does a single instrument play more than a single note. Like, there aren't chords. Like, there's not a piano, like, banging chords in the background, or a guitar or anything like that, which is weird because it's a rock song.
Mm-hmm.
But instead it has drums, bass, strings, weirdly. with this cool echo reverb thing in the background. And at one point, for whatever reason, 3 voices all chime in to say, what, like, prettiest girl I've ever seen or something. It's just like, whoa.
That was when I was suddenly like, oh, I actually know this song, and I've heard this song before, and I like this song. All of a sudden, I was like, when the it's like right before the chorus, I was like, oh, this song, because I was liking it, but I was thinking, oh, this is like interesting and experimental and like a little different than what I'm used to, and then I was like, oh no, but this is coalescing into actually like a chorus that is
But
cool.
it's not distractingly experimental.
No, not at all.
It feels very
That's why
complete.
it feels
It's
very
not experimental. It's
no, it's
like
not
stripped away.
Experimental isn't really the right word.
That movie we saw was experimental.
The movie that we saw was bad.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't even know if it was experimental.
Wasn't a movie.
Fair. Yep.
yeah, the song was great. It
I
was
really did
it was so like it's not catchy in the sense of like what an earworm is.
Mm-hmm.
It is just very fulfilling. Like
No, it works.
instantly, I'm like, I am happy I'm listening to this.
And I like get what he's going for, and I'm here for it.
Yep.
And yeah, it was I for usually when I see like, oh, random British rock star singing song I don't know, I was excited that it turned out to be something I actually was like, oh, I have things to say about this. Being sort of that when the chorus kicks in, you're like, oh, we're doing a rock song. Like, I get it. And then it makes the sort of minimalist vibe for the rest of it really work.
No, it's great because the way the song... Because that's the song's construction, and it is good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it could have been a shitty song that was...
Well, right, yeah.
It's, like, being objectively good. A lot of people have covered this. I listened to 3 different covers. I loved all of them.
Oh, really?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It
Def Leppard
seems
did a cover, which is great if
yeah,
you
I
like
saw
the
the Def
rock
Leppard
version. What version was it? There we go. Michael Damian, he did a cover, which soared to the top of charts in the U.S.
I don't know who he
more
is.
popular than the original. And then there was a great version recorded, or for a video that was released in 2017, actually, by... I can't believe I'm blanking on their names right now. Madeline Priot and Ricky Lee Jones. I think I got them right. It was really good. But I liked her voice a lot because the other versions were all dudes. Her voice was actually great because having a song that's like, it was a weirdly like suave song for being made of so many hard and rigid parts.
Mm-hmm.
Her voice worked really well for the
definitely,
construction because it added to the smoothness and helped move things along. Great song overall.
I agree. Yeah, it's really good.
It makes me like, I want it to be the soundtrack for like a scene in a early 1980s heist film where like they're figuring out the plan.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Yeah, and like
For the montage?
Yeah.
I'd even go a little bit earlier. Like you need like Michael Caine original Italian jobs, like early 70s era.
See, I was thinking that's a little too
Is that
early,
too
but
early?
yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm going for.
I do. Yeah.
Alright, I will give this perfectly good, healthy song a 4.2.
4.3. Good shit.
Bastard.
I did it to one up you.
4.1.
I'll give it a 4. It's fine.
Wow, where'd you go? Like right up there.
Now I'm the hero.
You know what that means the average is? 4.15.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That shit's available on the website at thearttomorrow.com. Anywho, now it's time for a mini-series you all have definitely seen called The Life and Laws of a She-Devil.
Nope.
When you turn the deck and get the lowest card, and no one seems to know.
The Life and Laws of a She-Devil is a, get this, British miniseries from the 80s that is, oh boy. It's based off a beloved novel that I've not read or heard of by an acclaimed feminist writer named Faye Weldon. It is the story of this housewife who feels very betrayed when her husband of many years leaves her for this beautiful romance writer. And what happens then is the she-devil of the title, this scorned woman whose marriage was broken up because her husband left her for a more attractive woman, just basically goes insane, burns down their home, and then systematically ruins the lives of these two people in a very elaborate way. On a whole, that sounds very fun. Like a really fun, maybe a bit campy revenge story. Unfortunately, this is an 80s British miniseries. So the direction is curious. It is pretty much a total mess for what seems like a really kind of fun idea for a satire. It's so all over the place. It actually reminded me a lot of another satire that I think was poorly adapted from this era, The Witches of Eastwick. That movie I've also felt like a very mess of a movie that kind of lost track of where the satire was and where was the kind of feminist revenge elements. This was frequently boring, a bit confusing, and while certain plot elements are a lot of fun, as they kind of satirize some important hypocrisies, I enjoy her forming a romantic relationship with a judge so she can seduce bad behaviors into the judge to make sentencing for her ex-husband worse, as she kind of keeps persuading him well, this kind of crime really deserves 15 years in prison, not a couple months in prison. That kind of thing is how that works? I mean, in this miniseries, those kind of elements I think are good. That is when it felt it really was centered and biting in a good way. One of the best elements, and I'm 100% biased on this, then again, he's also just a great actor. The fourth part of the miniseries out of 4 has a moment when she is now behind the scenes attacking the romance writer who, after all this shit's been going down for the past 3 parts, has kind of found comfort in the church. So the she-devil seduces the priest to kind of make the priest hate this woman in her congregation for all the horrible things she's done. Another kind of seducing, persuading thing. But the priest is played by Tom Baker of Doctor Who fame.
That's pretty cool.
And Tom Baker is a brilliant actor who can only play Tom Baker. And that is not a bad thing. Except when he played Sherlock Holmes. He actually was a really shit Sherlock Holmes in the How the Baskervilles miniseries. But this as a priest who is very annoyed by his vow of celibacy and breaks it pretty fast with this woman. He is fun because you feel that he's in on the joke more than the other actors were. But ultimately, I think the direction of this was too distracting. It wasn't fun enough. I'm all for watching the patriarchy burn in a miniseries. I think it may still not perfectly adapt well. I think that there's a lot of elements here that work, but ultimately it felt like a slog to get through, even with some good performances. The plastic surgery element I thought was actually pretty ahead of its time, but for the most part, kind of a mess. So I don't know, 2. That's right. I like the dumb movie more than this. No, that's not true. That's insane.
No, that's not true. That's a crazy thing to
insane.
say.
Yeah. Fuck. I give it 2.7. Fuck. There's so many numbers going on here.
I'm sorry. Are you literally trying to figure out which number is smaller than the other number?
I think he's trying to figure out which movie was worse.
Yeah, that's it. This is a 2.8 as opposed to 2.7 of the movie.
Wow.
There we go. Yeah. So, good job, Tom Baker, for raising this up a bit. But yeah, that's episode 130.
Oh, Leigh.
130.
Leigh,
Miss you, Leigh.
Yeah.
when I first came up with this dumb idea for a podcast, you were the first person I thought of for doing this.
It's true. He thought of you before he thought of his girlfriend.
Before you thought of me?
Aww.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it might have been Pedro first.
Yes.
No, it was Leigh
That's
first. I
fair.
actually remember this.
Leigh agreed first. I just have a long-running plan to make Pedro famous. That's just a side goal of mine.
Someday.
But I remember when I first kind of asked Leigh to do this, part of the reason you were intrigued was because you kept saying that despite being a TCOM major, you've seen no movies. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that over 130 episodes and over 130 movies, I've probably tortured you a bit, because the bringing you through, almost kicking and screaming through film cinema has been such a wonderfully illuminating thing for me, as well as you, hopefully, probably, of like just seeing more perspectives on classic cinema and underappreciated cinema, that I've just really enjoyed your time on the show, and also just, you've been a great friend. So we're going to miss you. It's
very much.
As I said, open door. You're welcome to come back for 5 minutes.
But
or
only
for a few
if you're going to be grumpy.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
You can come
well,
back
that's almost
whenever.
a guaranteed.
But we're always looking out for you first, so you are under no pressure whatsoever. But, so we are going to kind of figure out the show's future. We have exciting things kind of coming up. We're going to kind of parse it out a little bit, either this week or next week. Probably next week. Sorry. Next week or the week after, we're going to do a bonus episode. We're going to catch up with Pedro. He's going to review the 2 films we covered in his absence.
Uh-huh.
He's going to tell us about...
you kicked me off the show for 2 weeks, and I still got to do the work for the show.
You bet.
So fuck this shit.
If you're
It's
sick...
like in-school suspension.
Yeah. If you are sick from school, you're supposed to do the homework.
I wasn't sick. I was, like she said, kind of expelled, kind of not. ISS.
We're going to hear your thoughts. We're going to cover the songs...
OSS, actually.
The songs that we... that were for those episodes that none of us reviewed. And also, as a tease, you saw something very, very special to your heart.
I did.
That is connected with the podcast a certain way.
Yes.
So look forward to that. Also, during that bonus episode, we're going to talk about the future of the show, what it's going to look like, and we will announce the new co-host. That's all we'll say for now. We'll say what episode 131's stuff is in that bonus episode, which will come out next week. Probably still be a week between the bonus episode and episode 131 as we get things situated. But situation. I've consistently mumbled the whole podcast.
You've been a mumble.
I'm not going to stop at 130.
A mumbler, it's true.
But the usual. This review on iTunes. Go to theartofmore.com. Leave your comments there. You could check out all sorts of things like our back catalog, all of our Hinge ratings and rankings of all the stuff we've covered. Other cool podcasts there, including Let's Take 5. Today's episode, it's coming out Friday today. Let's Take 5 is the third part of our John Ford 5. It is the film My Darling Clementine, starring Henry Fonda. And also check out Ad Absurdum. There's a rumor they have a big episode in the works that I'm excited to hear. Do you have a random episode of the backlog you want to recommend?
Actually, Minority Report. It's a lot of fun.
That's really cool. And, post links to Adam Lord for all the amazing music. We'll be back soon, but once again, Leigh, you're great. We're going to miss you.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to miss you guys, too.
Aww. We're going to say bye-bye, but it's not really bye-bye, right?
You just got very
I'll still be in the group text.
All right. Until next time, I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Leigh.
And I'm Pedro.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Most people who don't understand sushi will go to a sushi bar and say, "Oh, I had the best sushi last night. The fish was so fresh. It was right out of the ocean."
Freshest fish, there's no taste. Just chewing, just hard. And people think, freshest should be good, but it wasn't.
Yasuda's menu changes constantly with what he finds in the market. And like thousands of other sushi chefs, he heads every day to Tsukiji, Tokyo's central fish market, where nearly 3,000 tons of the world's best seafood arrives every day. But unlike most others at his level who arrive at 4 a.m. to cream off what they perceive as the best and freshest, Yasuda-san arrives later. He does not buy the ridiculously expensive otoro, the fatty belly meat of the bluefin tuna that people have been known to pay hundreds of dollars a pound for. Instead, he buys tuna from the heads, using his knife skills to go for qualities that most others miss, removing every bit of sinew from what would otherwise be a difficult piece of meat, until it's, perfect.